We're going to be talking about contentment calls in this video, and we're going to be talking about hung up turkeys also. And you know, there's so much information out there on hung up turkeys. I mean, you just can't cover it in one video. But hung up turkeys is really probably the #1 problem that turkey hunters face is, you know, that they can locate a gobbler, they can get him gobbling pretty good, he comes in pretty good ways, and all of a sudden he just slams the brakes on, and then you know, they get lost. You know, turkey hunter just totally gets lost if he's not experienced, he don't know what he's doing, and the turkey just stands out there 100 yards, 80 yards, and just gobbles back and forth, and all of a sudden he just walks off, and you're like, well, what happened? You know, and there's a lot of things that could have happened. But you know, the contentment calls really will help you and add them calls to your bag of tricks. Now, we know that the contentment call, of course, the go-to is the purr and the cluck. Now, I know that there's people out there on YouTube and other places that'll tell you that a purr and a cluck together is the wrong call to use. It's an alarm call, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. I can't tell you how many gobblers over the years that I've finished off with some soft purrs and clucks together, because that's a contentment call. He's just out there, and you know, that hen's out there, and she's just feeding along, purring, and doing all that little calling that hens do when they're feeding around. But sometimes I think we can add to the, you know, if anything we can add to turkey vocalization when it comes to contentment calls, man, you know what, that's what you need to do. Now, the best contentment call, of course, when a gobbler's coming in, is just not say nothing. Just let him come looking for you. That's the best. That's the best, is if you can just don't say anything at all, because you know what, if he comes looking for you, chances are he's going to get really close. Whereas if you start calling to him when you see him out there, you know, he might just slam the brakes on even harder. But sometimes you got to call to him because he just ain't coming in any closer, and he needs that little reassurance that hen's out there. So when we face a gobbler like that just has to have that little bit of coaxing. Of course, the purr, like I said, and the cluck is the go-to call, but we've discussed that in other videos, and there's a lot of videos out there on how to do a purrs and a cluck. But I want to get down to other contentment calls that I use sometimes that has helped me. I think it was about 1993 or 94. I was just starting to get into turkey hunting really, you know, serious, and I was just wanting to learn so much about, you know, the calls and more than just a cluck and a yelp. Of course, that's what we all started out on. But I remember Dick Kirby, who was the founder and the president of Quaker Boy Game Calls, a pioneer of turkey hunting videos back in the 80s and the 90s. I had an old video, a VHS video of him teaching these calls, and it really made a lot of sense way back then. Of course, I didn't start really using them until years later, but they have helped me kill some turkeys. And you just don't hear a lot of videos out there, information about this. In fact, I went over YouTube, and I think I only found a couple of videos about these calls. But these are not going to work all the time, of course. You know, nothing works all the time, but these are just a couple of calls you can put in your bag of tricks of contentment calls, along with that purr and that cluck, that just might help you entice that gobbler to come on in. Of course, scratching the leaves, that's a call in itself. You know, just scratch the leaves if he's out there and he's 75, 80 yards, and of course make sure he can't see you. If he's just over the hill or he's out there and you can't see the turkey, you know, scratch leaves and do all that. That's just helping him to realize that, hey, there's something up there, and that's a hen, because that's what they're doing. So, you know, gobblers coming in, that's why you see a lot of good turkey hunters, they scratch leaves and do that. But along with that scratching the leaves, I like to try to do the little feed call. Now, I don't know really what you call it, and I'm not the world's best at it. There are people that can 10 times do it better than I can. But over the 30 years of turkey hunting, this is what I've heard hens do. Now, I haven't really heard the 3, 4, 5 note feed calls that a lot of people do in competitions and other places. Not saying turkeys don't do that, I'm sure they do, but I've just never heard it. When I've been super close to hens out feeding and, you know, doing their thing, I've just heard usually just about 2 notes, 2 maybe 3 notes is what I hear when it comes to the feed call. But now this is just a contentment call that turkeys do along with purring that you can do, and it will help that turkey just, you know, feel more confident that that's a real hen up there. And sometimes, boy, it just drives him nuts, and he'll just coax him right on in. So what we're going to do is we're going to, you know, use a mouth call. You about got to use a mouth call in this call, because you got to control the pressure, and you can't hardly do it on a box call or a slate call. But it's real simple. Just get you a good mouth call that you can use really good. You know, whatever cut that you prefer, that you can use without blowing a lot of air, that you don't have to put a lot of pressure on, is really a good starter. I like the double reed or the ghost cut for this particular call. So when I got a turkey out there and he's 75, 80 yards, I can't see him, he's just over the hill, he's just hung up a little bit, and you know, he's just not coming in looking for me, and maybe I'm purring and clucking, and you know, he's still kind of throw the brakes on. That's when I reach in this bag of tricks and I'll pull out everything that I can in order to get him convinced to come on in. So all you're going to do is say wheel, wheel. You know, like I said, I'm not saying they don't do it, but I've never heard a hen go wheel, 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 just constantly. It's more like a pretty quick wheel, wheel. And this is what a turkey is doing when they're feeding. And other turkeys right around them can hear this. So gobblers can hear this. It's very soft, it's very low, it's right under your breath pretty much. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your diaphragm, and here's how, you know, that Kirby taught years ago, and I think it's still a pretty good, easy way for beginners to learn. And you're just going to say wheel, wheel, pretty much. And here's how it's going to sound. That's pretty much all you're doing, is just wheel. You know, I try to do it like in maybe 2 to 3 notes, you know, 2 to 3 notes sometimes, like a pattern. Sometimes I'll go wheel, wheel, and then go back to 1, wheel, and then go back to 1, 1, 2, you know, wheel, wheel, wheel. And, you know, you don't have to do that. That's just what I do. But, you know, sometimes you just do 1 note, just like a wheel, and they know what that is. And sometimes I do believe that helps coax that gobbler that everything's okay. Do I do it all the time? No, I don't do it all the time. In fact, I don't think I've done it this year. But when I find a gobbler that's just not coming into anything else, buddy, I'll reach in that bag of trick and I'll do all that scratching leaves and that wheel, and sometimes I think that just helps convince him that's a real hen up there doing her thing, and he'll come right on in. So that's just something you might want to think of and you know, try in your bag of tricks, and I do believe it's effective. All right, the next contentment call we're going to talk about is the whine. Now, about 2 months ago when we first started the series this year, I did a video on soft calling and shotgun calling, where I called it shotgun calling. And that's pretty much, and I really don't know what you call it, it's just what I call it. That's where a turkey hunter's down here down on his gun like this, and he's got his call in his mouth. Shotgun calling to me, because you're on your shotgun, and it's just really soft calling. Well, that works, and that's what, you know, that's what you need to do. But there's one little call that kind of confused people in that video, and that was the whine. Years ago, I learned this call, and I've used it successfully over the years. And I mean, I've had turkeys, you know, that's broke and come, no joke, to 12, 13 yards right in my face, where they just be hung up out there, and you start whining to them. And I don't do it all the time. Again, this is something I don't do every day. I don't do it to every turkey. But if he's not coming in, he's out there, and maybe he's out there and I can see him. Usually I like to do this when I can actually see the turkey, just so I can read his body language a little bit. But if I can see him and maybe he's just a little bit too far, maybe he's to my left or to my right, my line of fire, and I can't move the gun because he'd see me, I'll start whining to him. And boy, sometimes I've seen him just totally break and come all the way into, you know, 15, 20 yards, even like I said, 13, 12 yards, and kill him. So here's what it is. Now, what confused people was they said that's that squealing hen and it don't work. This is not the squealing hen. Now, I know, and I'm not knocking nobody, but there was some companies out years ago that came out with, you know, a squealing hen call, and I heard some people using that on public land one year, and I set up on a point, started laughing at them. And I'm not saying turkeys don't do that. I'm sure they probably do, yeah, but I've never heard it out in the woods, and you know, I think you ought to stay with what sounds as real as possible, what they hear every day, and so. A whine is different than that call. You know, that squealing hen, to me, it sounded like a dying rabbit that you coyote hunt with. But a whine is, I do think it's got something to do with breeding. I really do. And this is what a turkey, to me, I think that she does this when she's just ready to go. She's ready to breed. She sees that gobbler and she's like, hey, you know, and she does that call, and it almost drives them crazy. Here's what it is, though. It's very simple. All you're doing is just 1 note. You can cluck with it. I usually do a cluck at the end of it. But when I see that turkey, maybe I'm down on my gun, you know, maybe I'm down. But here's what I'm doing. It's just that little bitty whine. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to do it a lot. Just maybe 1 or 2 times. And like I said, man, sometimes that's all it takes to get that sucker to come right on into you. I've done it. I'm serious. And it's worked for me over the years. So again, that's just a contentment call that everything's okay. So contentment calls are really great. You know, there's more than just the purr and the cluck, even though that's primarily what we all do. But when that's not working, try that feed call and scratching the leaves, and try that whine, and you'd be surprised how many times that turkey will break from 60, 70 yards and come right all the way into your gun range, and you can be taking him home with you. And hey, that's what we all want. That's why I'm here. I'm here to get you that gobbler. So try that and see if that don't work for you. Thank you for watching this video. Would you please take a moment and subscribe to this channel? Just hit that subscribe button down the corner. A lot of great turkey hunting content coming in the weeks to come, so you stay tuned. Our Tennessee hunt will be up probably sometime this week, and you don't want to miss that one. That's an educational video that's really going to teach you how to kill a hung up gobbler. So just make sure to visit all the links, DaleOutdoors.com. Join me on social media, my Facebook, my Instagram. The links are below. Come and follow me on there. So check out Spring Fever Custom Calls, where you can pick up my box call, my Signature Series box call, my mouth calls, and all the other great calls there. Check out So Outdoors and make sure to give them a like also. And check out Spring Fever Custom Calls and So-So's YouTube page. I'll put the links below, and subscribe to them guys. I know they'd appreciate it. But hey, we're going to get out of here. It's quitting time. You got to quit here at 12 in Virginia, so it's past 12 now, and we're going to get on. We didn't get nothing today, but we worked a couple, but maybe tomorrow's the day. So you be safe out there, and hope you kill a big one.